All right, greetings and welcome to another episode of the Unnamed Bracketology podcast. My name is Kerry Miller, joined as always by my good friend Graham Doran. Graham, today is Tuesday. That means we're doing Big Ten talk, and this being our first Big Ten discussion of the season, I got to start with the Big Ten question I've been asked 18 bajillion times over the past decade. Is this the year the Big Ten finally wins its first title since Michigan State in 2000?
I will say this is the first time I can remember in, I don't know, 15, 20 years where the answer to that question for me is I have to think about it. Like I like Michigan so much and Purdue, especially as a second option. I really like the chances of the Big Ten compared to any other conference. I would take the Big Ten's chances of winning the national championship over any other conference. But then you look around, you say, okay, I got all the different Big 12 options. I've got Arizona, Iowa State, Houston, Texas Tech, Kansas. I mean, you could go on and on over there. And then you throw in the various options from UConn over in the Big East, Duke in the ACC. That doesn't even count teams like Louisville and UNC. I think the answer for me is probably not. The Big Ten's probably not going to win the national championship, but I do like their chances more than any other league.
Yeah, it's probably not just because of sheer odds, right? But if you had to pick one league, I mean, it's a toss up for me between the Big Ten and the Big 12. Um, I know it's stupid to say anything negative about Michigan right now, but I am a little skeptical. What's going to happen? Yep. Oh, I got a dog in the background. At some point in a championship run, your lead guard has to take over the game. And I don't know if Elliot Cadeau is doing that for the Wolverines. I think we're in the same position with Michigan right now as we were with Duke last year, except instead of questioning whether they can come through when they actually do face a challenge, with Duke, they blew it multiple times. Michigan did hang on. They survived against TCU and Wake Forest, but it's TCU and Wake Forest. Let's see what happens when Big Ten play really gets rolling. Let me pull up the share this screen as we go over the Big Ten. You can see there what our current seeds are. We're not too different on much of anything. I'm a little bit lower on Nebraska than Graham. Where do you have them as a two? Where do you have them overall right now? Because they are my top three seed. I'm very close. I would love to put them over Gonzaga or maybe even Purdue, but I have them at nine.
Yeah, I have them overall at seventh. And I think for me, Nebraska feels like a pretty solid two seed right now. That's saying, a team that's undefeated has a win at Illinois, beat Michigan State, won at Ohio State. Like when you add all that together, I think the resume itself is so strong that I really can't put them at a three seed compared to some other teams. Obviously, Duke is the team we discussed yesterday, who for me right now falls down, even though I feel like Duke's a two seed. I just can't really justify personally having Nebraska lower than a two. On the other hand, I also don't see them as a one seed right now because as good as they've been, they haven't done anything like Arizona, just blowing teams out and really good teams. Michigan, absolutely dominating good competition. UConn, elite win after elite win, and their only loss was with two starters out against Arizona. Iowa State goes in, blows Purdue out in West Lafayette. I think that to me is the difference between a one seed caliber team like those teams in Nebraska, who I think is a solid two.
Yeah, and I think that comes through in the quality metrics, right? Like they just barely beat Illinois, they barely beat Michigan State, they barely beat Ohio State, and that's why they're barely 20th across the board in BPI, Ken Palm and Torvik. And I think that's when you get up to the ones and twos, like you need both the resume metrics and the quality metrics to really, you know, get that oomph over the top. And I mean, the net has them right. They're 11th in the net. So I think they're there, but they're not quite a two seed for me. Who else do you think is difficult to seed? I guess Nebraska's not that tough, but of the ones we have in, who's toughest for you right now?
I think it's very similar to what you mentioned yesterday about Miami. I think Indiana is in the same boat. I look at the team, I think they're pretty good, but I also don't really see a whole lot of evidence that they deserve a good seed. So I have them as my last nine seed right now, but I felt like that was generous because it's based on how I interpret Indiana to play as opposed to what they've done to merit a seed.
I'm curious how this relates. I have Indiana one spot behind Kentucky. Where do you have the Wildcats these days? Or are you in a similar boat where it's like, I can't possibly put them ahead of them because they lost to them?
Yeah, I have Kentucky actually ahead, playing in that 8-9 game right now. I think again, Kentucky's the same deal to me as Indiana. Like I will see more. The one thing Kentucky, has done is they have looked better at times against quality competition. They've played more quality competition than Indiana.
Mhm.
They've also looked like a disaster at times, but at least there's a little something to go off of with Kentucky a little bit more. So I think Kentucky and Indiana, two very similar teams, and I expect both of them to rise up that seed list as the year starts to go on. They just don't have a lot of meat to the bones right now.
Yeah, for me, the toughest to seed is Iowa. Big Ten has six teams in the top 14 of the net, and I think we probably both believe in five of them to some extent. I don't know that I believe in Iowa yet. I mean, they looked pretty impressive in that home win over UCLA, but even that's not a quad one result. And I think UCLA might just not be very good. Clearly, we both have them out at the moment, largely in part because I think I had them just barely in before that result. But yeah, 14th in the net. The predictives, including the net, love them, but 31 and a third in resume average, it's not good, and that's indicative of the fact that they haven't won a quad one game. But both their losses perfectly fine at Michigan State, at Iowa State. You're not knocking them for that, but that's one of those. That's who I thought you were going with when you said Miami before saying Indiana, because it's just another one of those resumes. It's just nothing bad, nothing great. Prove it in January. That's where I'm at with Iowa. So, who from the Big Ten has been the biggest disappointment to you, and why is it Oregon?
I think Oregon was definitely up there as an option. I'll go Maryland just
Yeah.
to play devil's advocate. I really thought Maryland was going to be in the bubble contention at least, and they just haven't even been remotely close. So I'll go with the Terps, but Oregon I also think is definitely there as an option as well. I was a little bit higher on Oregon than Maryland opening the year, but at least Oregon stayed in some kind of tournament contention a little bit longer. Maryland basically spent the first couple of weeks of the season telling you they're not going to compete at all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even have their best wins and worst losses on here, but boy, for both, there would not be much in the best win department. Minnesota, or excuse me, Maryland is 0 and 5 against the top two quads. Granted, those are all quad one. Oregon 0 and 6, three quad one, three quad two. They just neither of them can. For me, Oregon just feels more disappointing because they were in that the Players Era Festival, and like we expected Rutgers to be bad. We didn't expect Oregon to just look terrible in that thing. Week ahead, right? So it's whatever 4 p.m. on Tuesday. We don't have the Tuesday results yet. Big Ten is always going to be a little. We had to pick some day for the Big Ten, and they play like literally every day of the week. It just happened to be Tuesday, so they have a couple games today, but nothing too big. The UCLA at Wisconsin. That feels like a pretty big bubble battle, I guess, but I don't know that I believe in either of those teams in the long run. Which game of the week are you most looking forward to in the Big Ten?
Whew, a lot of different options there. Um, I think I'm going to go with Nebraska.
Yeah.
Going on the road, getting that opportunity against IU. If Nebraska pulls that off, I'll start to really believe that they're actually going to land a top three seed. Right
Hmm.
now, I feel like they've done an incredible job of winning the games that they can win. Now's the difference maker. Are they going to be a team that competes for a top five seed in the NCAA tournament? Or are they going to be a team that's competing for a two seed, a three seed? I think this is the sort of game that will tell us that.
Yeah, and it's massive for Indiana. They need to get a quad one win. That's a huge opportunity for them, obviously. Um, I've got my eye on Illinois at Iowa, and I was looking at Illinois' full schedule earlier today. And against all these, top six teams in the league, so they already lost at home to Nebraska. They get Iowa, I think they get Michigan State, they get Nebraska, they get Purdue all on the road, and they get Michigan at home. I feel like Illinois is a good team that is set up to possibly drop to like the 7 or 8 line just as a victim of circumstance. If they were to lose this game at Iowa on whatever that is, Saturday, Sunday, it's going to be tough for them to get up there because they have 3 quad 1 wins, but they don't have that upper echelon win. Tennessee on a neutral, I mean, that's good for sure. That home win over Texas Tech was pretty great. That could eventually be a quad 1A win, depending on where Texas Tech lands. But are they going to have enough, you know, what's rock or the pieces of gold to be a top 4 seed when all is said and done? Um, Anything else on the Big Ten on your mind? I know I threw the Washington and Wisconsin on there for no real reason, but I don't think they're anywhere near as bad as those bottom 6 resumes right now.
Well, I guess the thing that would surprise me from the Big Ten right now is the fact that we only have 8 teams in. Uh,
Yes.
the ACC surprised me how many teams we have in right now. The Big Ten's the complete opposite. I think I want to say more teams are going to join, but then I look at Ohio State and UCLA, and I'm thinking those are the only two that I think have a really good shot from outside of our current field to make it. And those teams have not been taking advantage of the opportunity. So I kind of feel like what I thought was going to be a 10 bid league early on in the year, it might end up being a 9 bid league or maybe even more likely 8 than 10.
Yeah, I think it could even be a 7 bid league because neither of us is buying what USC is selling. Certainly, what are they selling over the last two games? Getting just destroyed by Michigan and Michigan State. That was not a fun road trip for them. But that'll wrap us up for today. Tomorrow will be our, let me hit the stop share button, midweek, mid-major extravaganza. I got to put that spreadsheet together, but that'll include the Big East. A couple of Big East fans were like, oh, you forgot someone when I dropped the schedule yesterday. We didn't forget the Big East. They don't deserve their own pod. But until next time, take care and enjoy the hoops tonight.